welcome to the Process 34 podcast. My name is Cody Dugan, and I am the creator of Process 34, as well as the host for this show. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the podcast, and if you have not yet done so, please, I encourage you to do so now. By you subscribing and liking my content, I am able to grow my audience and have the ability to reach more people and ultimately help more people. For those of you that are new to the show, first off, welcome and thank you for watching or listening. Process 34 was created in the midst of grief after losing my son. Growing tired of so many negative thoughts and emotions, I decided to challenge myself to find the positive in it. And from that moment on, try to find it in any situation. That led to pursuing a healthier lifestyle of feeding my mind, body, and spirit every single day, no matter what. And from that, a podcast was born, and that's where we are now. This is a show where I share with you my personal stories and experiences, and how I was able to get through those events, and what I did then, and what I'm still doing now. Through using a positive outlook or routine and a daily inventory, I feel like you can have a pretty well-balanced and manageable life. On the show, I'll also have guests from all walks of life. People that are doing good things, positive things, and ultimately just on the same wavelength as Process 34. Professionals and businesses that offer their expertise, services, and even their own personal experiences and stories. We are a community, and we are interested in self-help along with helping others. So I hope you enjoy, and again, thank you for watching and listening. And as always, please hit that like button, subscribe, and share with your friends. Enjoy the show. Thank you. Hey everybody, welcome to the Process 34 podcast. Today joining me, we have a very, very special guest. It's been a long time coming here. Mr. Daniel Command, also known as DanCBearded. Yep. Dan was actually originally my daughter's teacher. Mm-hmm. So that's my first exposure to him. And then later on, my wife actually had him as a client for massage therapy.
Yeah, randomly.
And, they got to talking, and he was sharing about his YouTube career and everything. And she was kind of mentioning what I was wanting to do. And he says, hey, tell him to reach out anytime. So I'm like, I'm the kind of guy that if I need help, I'm going to reach out. So I'm like, all right, I'll take him up on it. Reached out thinking that he would probably not even respond. And he responded within probably like 10 minutes and has been the most helpful and the most instrumental in all of this since day one. So I appreciate that and thank you. Like I said, Dan is a former teacher. He is now a beard connoisseur. Are we? What is the label?
I have no idea. Okay. Yeah, content creator.
He's the man of beards.
Yeah, I don't. It's so hard to explain. Yeah,
but he's made a career out of it though. He is becoming quite the YouTube sensation. He's what else are you doing? A lot of consolation work.
Yeah, yep. I consult with companies to help with their marketing and their SEO work. I do ad work for companies, make videos for them. I travel and speak at like barber expos, and I teach barbershop schools, and a little bit of everything.
Yeah. So, how did this come about? This passion for beards?
Yeah. So I was a teacher. I went to college, had no idea what I wanted to do for a living. Mm-hmm. And my buddy's dad owned a medical imaging facility. Okay. And he was like, hey, go to school and get your radiation tech degree. I'll get you a job, make it $100K your first year out. Right. I'm like, oh, great.
Right.
And hated it with a passion.
Yeah.
And then in college, while I failed all 6 of my first classes, my first semester, I failed every single one of them after doing really well in high school.
Right.
And it was just because I just didn't like it. I just didn't care.
Right.
So I started coaching, and I coached water polo. Okay. And this was at Ann Arbor Huron High School in Michigan. And so I started really enjoying coaching, and I was like, okay, I know I can't probably coach water polo for a career, but what's something similar? All right, teaching. And so I said, let me go teaching. I like history. I like telling stories. Let me try that. So I started going for teaching, and I kind of took off, was kind of a natural at it. And so I got hired, 22 years old, fresh out of college. And my first job was actually at Goodrich High School. And I was...
Was it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay.
So there was I graduated in like March.
Okay.
And there was a teacher who had to have back surgery. And so she was out and they're like looking for a long-term teacher. And so I'm like, all right, I'll do it. I graduated on like a Tuesday, started teaching on a Wednesday for the rest of the year. And so I was a 22-year-old and I was teaching 18-year-old AP seniors.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, I got to find a way to like differentiate myself. And I'm like, I always wanted to grow a beard, but my dad was adamantly against it. My grandfather was a professional baseball player and just a stud. And so my dad always kind of was in that
for the
lens.
Yankees?
So that's where the story's going. No, he played for the Phillies and world record holder, super cool stuff. But my dad always was like, hey, the New York Yankees can't have facial hair, neither can you. Because I played sports just like you. And it was like a big deal to try out and stuff. So that was always kind of in the back of my head. Now I'm like, all right, I'm out, got my own place. Like I'm growing my beard out. And I really liked it. And I have a super obsessive personality. I've gone through different phases, whether it was like Pokemon Go or metal detecting. And if I do something, I'm all in.
Right.
So when I started growing my beard, I was like, there's got to be something better than this like itch and dry skin. And so I just started researching like ingredients and products and got really into it. And I liked the appearance of it. I thought it like made me stand out. It was a little bit different. And so I got super into it. And I started posting originally on Reddit. There was a sub forum for beards, and I would post like updates, and I'd post about products, and I started to get a little bit of following. Even had companies reaching out to me through Reddit and all this stuff. And then I got into watching YouTube videos, and this was back in 2018. And there were a couple of like beard YouTube channels out there, but it wasn't anything near my personality or style. I called them kind of bro channels. They would burp, they'd swear, they'd talk about growing a beard to get chicks, you know? And so I learned from their information and I enjoyed it and I'm really good friends with them now. But I was like, oh man, this just isn't quite me. And to kind of get into like the beard content side, I'll never forget. I was watching a video. This was in the summer of 2018. And my wife came up from behind me and she was like massaging my shoulder while I'm watching. And she's like, what you watching? I explained it. She was like, just in passing, was like, hey, I think you'd be good at that. You should try making some videos. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, just literally to impress my wife. Like that was it. I didn't want to make money. I didn't want anything. I was like, I've always thought YouTube was cool. I've always wanted to do YouTube. So the next day, just rounded up whatever we had in the house and filmed at my kitchen table and like kind of had a plan for the channel right away. And essentially was like, I'm going to be the opposite of these channels, respectfully. I am a teacher. I'm a family man. I don't swear. I'm not going to be talking about getting chicks and all this stuff. I want to approach it as a teacher. And then I had like a couple superpowers. Like I brought in my wife and who essentially I would review beard products. And so they have scents to them. They have smell. And I had to sleep next to my wife. I had to be in the car with my wife. So she had a big say in these scents. Like I had wore one time and got in the car and she was like, nope, go wash it out. Can't do it. She was pregnant at the time. To give her a little leeway there, she was pregnant. She's like, can't do it. So I'm like, why don't I give the like female perspective? And so I brought her on camera and she talked about it and it was like immediately like, okay, there's something different here. And so the passion of like taking care of my beard and styling my beard, mixing with the content kind of all came at once and just kind of built up. And it started with just trying to look different.
That is, I noticed that too. Like, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of beard content, but you having your wife on really does, I feel like, make a huge difference and just kind of puts you kind of in your own little genre. Are others doing it now?
There have been, for sure. It's definitely been something. The beard industry niche is very interesting. It's very small. And so you see a lot of channels come and go. And even they'll come in waves where they'll stay, maybe they don't post for 6 months, then they'll post again, they'll try the wife, then they don't. And so there's a lot of fluctuations, but a lot of people definitely have tried. And I believe more opinions the better. Like I don't ever want to just like try to monopolize or take like, bring everybody's wife in. Let's hear about these things. You know, if you're confident in what you talk about, that's not a threat to you.
Right. No, absolutely. So going back, you as a teacher, now, was this just something that obviously you were doing it on the side? Did it ever cross your mind that this was going to be your career and that did you think it was going to be a career, and also were you unhappy with your current career?
So when I started, absolutely not. Okay. None of the above. I loved teaching with a passion, Everybody that knew me knew that. I could have done a lot of different things, but I just loved teaching. Yep. I loved coaching. Mm-hmm. I took a lot of pride in building a community, getting everybody in the classroom. Like I would always get the kids that were tough and struggled in other classrooms, had learning challenges and behavior challenges, and I'd get them to like come around, right? I'd have parapros that would go and be like, this kid is a different human in your room 1 hour away from the other room and stuff. So I loved it. And when I started the beard content, the first 6 months, we actually refused to make money. We turned down everything. We didn't make a penny for 6 months. Mm-hmm. And we had this like natural like thought that I think a lot of people do, that somehow for some reason getting compensated for stuff online can seem wrong or seem dirty. And we don't see other professions. Like nobody sees a doctor, and thinks like, oh, they're making all this money, like getting compensated for their work.
Right.
But there was this weird stigma. And so we started off by saying, we will not take money. We're not doing this for money.
You felt undeserving.
Yeah, it definitely was undeserving. But also I remember, and this is wrongfully of me, but I remember viewing people and being like, there's no way they're selling these. I remember watching like gamers and they would like sell keyboards and stuff and get an affiliate. And I'm like, there's no way. They're just doing this for the money. And then it's like, no, they probably actually used that keyboard and probably actually really enjoyed it. And so it was a big moment about 6 months in. A company owner actually called us and was like, hey, can we take you out to lunch? And me and Sam were like, okay. So we both went out to lunch. Never forget it. Mongolian barbecue. Delicious, by the way. And he was like, listen, we are killing it off of you guys. This is criminal. We feel horrible. Please take our money. Like, we just want to fairly compensate you. We don't give you anything more than you've earned, but we need to pay you.
Yeah.
And so me and my wife went back and we're like, I think we can do everything we're doing and still hold our morals and our values and our purpose without having to change because we're getting money. And if it's all working out, let's do that. Even at that point, it was just strictly, and we even made a video like acknowledging it. We're like, hey guys, we've changed our mind. We are going to be taking money. We want to be transparent, let you guys know, but we're going to be doing this for our family. We're going to be doing this to do a Disney vacation, to do this kind of thing. And so it started as that, and then started to kind of really build from that moment. Was still never a thought of a career at all. I was coaching, I was teaching, all this stuff. And then it was around the time of COVID when everything changed with teaching for me. And it was teaching online, which I was well equipped for, right? I had the studio set up. I'd been live streaming for years, all this stuff. And so I was like, yeah. But then the way that teaching was perceived started to change. Then when it went back, a lot of things that we had to make concessions for because of the quarantine time, once all those things went away, we didn't get stuff back again. And so I felt like my career greatly changed. I didn't feel appreciated. I didn't feel happy. And so that is when it started to turn. And if I get something in my mind, it usually turns pretty quickly. And so from that point, it was just like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it. And so I just kind of went all in.
And I remember around that time too, other friends that are teachers, you guys had a lot of extra work put on you.
A ton.
And I obviously weren't getting compensated for the extra work at all.
And
some of you even took pay cuts probably too.
Yep. And that was tough. Like for my job, to give an example, my first 5 years I was frozen with my income. We had to freeze. And I was teaching my first couple of years. I made $37,000 a year. I had 2 master degrees. And so it just became a point. And then I had a child, and I had 2, then I had 3. And it's like, how do you even come near trying to support your family on that? And we were, at one point I was teaching I had like 36 kids in a class. I was teaching with half of them in front of me and half of them on a computer to the side of me, and trying to manage all that. And just the hours and the stress. And it was getting really crazy. And so it was truly a mixture of both. The channel's opportunities were growing and kind of overlapping with teaching. And that's another thing with teaching, right? We get summers, we get holidays, but there's no vacation time. Like if an opportunity came up, I either had to lie or not take that opportunity. And so kind of that combination was like, all right, I do see this as a possible career, and I am no longer happy with this career.
Yeah.
And so I'm not one that's just going to draw it out and complain and mope. I'm like, if I'm not happy, I'm going to do something about it. And so that's kind of how it progressed.
Yeah. Nice. And so I forgot what I was going with that. I wanted to ask you, you pretty much just answered all of that. When you came across that feeling though, that you have to make a decision. Obviously you said once you make up something in your mind, or you're unhappy about something, you make that decision and you go for it. What is your process with that though? And like, how do you, when you face adversity like that, where it's not only affecting you, it's affecting your whole family.
Yeah.
Like, what is your process, and what is it like? What is like? How do you, I guess, do you have like a pros and cons kind of thing, or are you just weighing out, your happiness alone, and then whatever happens, or what? Like, I just
for sure
eager to know how you can quickly make a decision.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I don't think I've ever talked about this. And I was, in a way, the sole income provider, right? My wife would jump on videos and stuff, but she used to be an accountant, U of M degree, accountant. Now she runs our merchandise store, but it was not like we had any kind of salary. And making this decision was really tough. It was tough because every single voice other than my wife's voice was, are you sure?
Yeah.
Benefits, insurance,
stability.
Stability. Yeah. You have a salary. You have a good job. Like, what are you doing? And no matter how you tell people I'm just not happy, they're like, yeah, that's work, that's life. And I literally refused to accept that. And one of my traits that I don't know if it's good, if it's bad, I am supremely confident in myself. I really believe in my abilities. I believe, let's say for whatever reason this doesn't work out, I know there's a different career that I will crush it in, that I will do it. I am just obsessive with my work. I don't stop. I just work. I love it. I put a lot of passion into what I do. So we sat down, and me and my wife, we kind of, the most basic idea of this decision was, our kids are young, and I do believe I am setting the example for them by what I do. Not by what I say, not by what I preach or anything like that, but what I do. And I don't want to show my kids that you have to go to a job you hate. You have to live for the weekends, right? You got to wait until retirement. I didn't want to do that. I adamantly did not want to do that. I had parents that worked really hard at jobs they didn't like, that was stressful, that was just getting by kind of deal. And so I was like, if we got to struggle for a while, if we have to figure it out, but I get to spend more time with my family, I get to show them I'm chasing a dream. I believe the American dream now is freedom. I don't think it's being rich. I don't think it's a dollar amount. It's being able to do what you want with who you want at any time you want. And so for me, that was what I wanted to chase. I wanted to spend time. Another thing that was a factor, my daughter Violet was born in mid-January of 2020. So this was at the time of all of this. And so I had the ability to be home with my daughter more, to see my kids with sports more. Because when I was teaching, to make it work, I would teach all day, and then I would go coach all night. Then in summers, I would coach all day. I would do private lessons for swimming, for water polo. I would do tutoring. I would work on the computer at night with any odd end jobs that I could get. I was like just trying to make it. Yeah. And I knew that I had potential here. I knew I had an ability, and my wife was the biggest encouraging factor ever. Yeah. Like, we had no guarantee of anything. I have no salary, no anything. And she's like, no, let's get it. Our happiness is worth more. So there was a factor of building up income to get to there. I didn't just go from nothing to I'm all in, So I did have some steady streams of income. Was it enough to live on? No, by no means. At least to maintain the lifestyle that we had, which is not extravagant, just a normal kind of middle-class lifestyle. And I knew, though, if I took all that time I had invested in teaching and I was able to put it into these other things, I knew it was going to work. I didn't have any evidence of that. I didn't have any forecast. I just knew, give me that time and it's going to work. And it was the craziest thing of all time. When I left, it was like the universe opened and was like, okay, you're ready for these doors now? We got you. And it like is unbelievable. Now my time is not based on like how much work I can do or what can I figure out. It's what opportunities do I pursue, because there's so many of them. And it was, mainly just discussions with my wife and then valuing our happiness and our family time.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, you're obviously a smart individual. You seem to, you're not going into anything blind too. So I'm sure you had a game plan, and I'm sure you worked it to where you knew it was, this is probably the best time.
Yes. And I never, one thing I don't do, and I probably should, but I won't ever, because it's not my style. I don't ever crunch numbers. Like, we don't budget. I don't know how much we spend on any given thing.
I'm terrible at it.
Yeah. But I have like a baseline, like don't get below. Essentially how our budgeting works is if we get below this number, all right, we got to tighten up.
Yeah,
right. Let's calm down for a little bit. Let's tighten up. And
Delete
that's kind of how
Amazon app now.
Exactly. And so leading up to it, I did not know my income. I didn't know how much I made from this stuff. Okay. Now I would do taxes, and I would have a general idea, like come by the end of the year, right? But I didn't know going into this, because I had to make the decision. I made the decision about 6 months before the end of the school year.
Okay.
So I put in my retirement notice in January, and I had not gotten my taxes stuff that year and stuff yet. So it was decently blind. But knowing there was enough and knowing that I could get more was kind of my biggest thing. But it was a jump. I mean, it was a really big jump. Family, friends, I mean, everybody. Literally, so we had to get with a nonprofit company to figure out what insurance was best for us. Yeah. They like link you with like this insurance and that insurance. I call them up and I'm like, hey, I'm doing this and stuff. And then they're going to go look through it. And this nonprofit makes money, right, by linking. They get paid by insurance commission, right? Yeah. And they go, are you sure you want to do this? I'm like, even the insurance lady that's trying to sell me insurance is like trying to talk me out of this. So it was like every voice was like, no. And other than marrying my wife, best decision I've ever made. Like,
that's crazy.
14 months later, just could not imagine if I didn't have made that.
14 months?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
This almost 14 months.
Wow.
A little bit more than 14 months.
Good for you, man. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Something I forgot at the beginning, but I really, really, really wanted to talk to you about it. You, like I said, you have a successful career now. The future is extremely bright for you. You seem to be happy. One of the things that draws me to you the most is just your personality. You're just a very respectful and polite and kind and caring individual, and more than anything, you're a family guy. And I see it, and like, not only do you're showing the world all the time, and that's awesome, but you can just tell, like, you're just a good family man.
Thank you.
So knowing, like, all of this, like, pretty much I can imagine every decision you guys make is based on the future of your family and your children. Were you kind of brought up in a similar situation, or was this like, what made you the way you are now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I have fantastic parents. Mm-hmm. I don't have a struggle story. I don't. My parents are still together. They are amazing. Mm-hmm. We were probably lower middle class, and then as I got older, my dad got a better job, mm-hmm. and so we moved into a nicer neighborhood and stuff. And so I don't have some crazy struggle story. And I have two younger sisters that I'm very close with, and I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. My wife has a little bit more of a decorated family past, and kind of her whole life, she just wanted to raise a daughter the right way. Yeah. She had her father walk out at a super young age and was bouncing between home, like, long story. Yeah. So that was a big thing for me. I am absolutely obsessed with my wife. I love my wife. I'm in love with my wife, and I'll do anything to try and make her happy, like relentlessly. And so that's a big part of it. But I'm not sure. I just really enjoy being a father. I really enjoy seeing my kids happy, seeing them excited, seeing them like working hard and growing and learning. And I don't know. I don't know what drives that. I don't think I've ever really thought about that, like where that bug or that seed comes from. But it's just,
well, and the reason I ask is because it's not a common thing. Sad as that sounds, it's, I'm not saying that people don't like their families, but a lot of people aren't as open about it, or, just, I guess, yeah, that would be the best way to put it, as open as you are about it. And you portray it so nicely. I was just curious. I mean, I love my family dearly, and I'm the same way. Everything I do is based on them. I could care less what happens to me. Same. You know what I mean?
I don't spend money on myself. I hate it.
It's like, if this works out for me, or if I get something out of this, cool. But what's going to happen with you three? But and I was also raised that way too. You know, like my parents showed me love. They showed me appreciation. They showed me care. And so, it's just, and I think I took that and did my own thing with it.
Yeah, definitely. And I do know that I'm public with a lot of men that watch, right? A lot of guys. And so I do try to lead by example. I do try to show the positive side of life. I do try to just be myself, because the last thing I am is a complainer or a negative person. If I have a situation, I'm going to make the most out of it. I just don't think there's time to waste by complaining and sitting on, and that's huge for me. And I think it trickles down with my kids. And one last point of my kids that I think is really important is when I was teaching, I was big on, again, showing my kids, not telling my kids. They could see me go to work. They knew we lived behind the school I taught at. They could know Dad is teaching right there. I would take them to water polo games and they'd see me coaching. The one thing that I feared was going to YouTube, going down to the basement to my studio to work. I didn't know if that would have the same impact. I didn't know if that would send the same message. So one thing that we did based on their interest is my boys, they started their own YouTube channel.
Oh, cool.
So it's called the Command Bros. They just did a video the other day doing the Bean Boozled.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And so they have it, but they're involved on every single step. They come up with the video ideas. They plan it out. They buy the stuff with the money that they have. They come up with the title. They come up with the tags. They know the back end of YouTube more than most YouTubers do.
Right.
And they help with the thumbnail. And so they understand like what I do. And I talk very openly about it. Like if I have a business consultation meeting, I tell them I have a business consultation meeting. I'm helping a company with their labels or whatever it may be. And so for me, showing them like this is different, and showing them like, hey, I love my job. I get to do my job. My dream is for them not to go to college. I would love for them to find some entrepreneurial spirit and pursue that, or find something else, because I think most homes have parents, especially in our age with our parents, where they just had a job. That was it. It was just simply to provide. There was no concept of happiness with that. And I want to show that you can be happy and provide for your family. And I think literally the world would be exponentially better. Because thing that struck me is it's not as common for someone to be very outwardly vocal and proud of their family and showing it off as the level of a lot of us do. And you see a lot of people, because I think they're not happy with their job. And so they're just suffering 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And then they come home and it's like they just got to decompress. They got to watch the sports. They got to do this and that. And for me, my job's so amazing during the day. My kids get home from school or my kids get home from soccer. I'm not like, I need a moment. I'm like, what's up, guys? And so that's a huge difference for me with the kids. And that was a literal big message that I wanted to send.
Were you like that when you taught?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Yep. I was very...
give me a minute.
No.
Okay.
I was happy. I loved. I didn't have the normal stressors that a lot of teachers do. There's a weird human trait where people bond over complaining about their job, and I always stayed out of that. Oftentimes to the detriment of my social skills at work, and people maybe didn't accept me as much. But I refused to do that. I liked my job. I was all about it. If for any reason something goes wrong with YouTube, I don't like it, I will move on. I'm not going to hold myself to that. And so I thought that was important. And I did learn. So my dad worked for Frito-Lay.
Okay.
I'll never forget. We got a pet, a dog. You'll appreciate this one. Ended up naming it Brady after Tom Brady.
Nice.
But the original pitch for it was Frito, because we love Fritos. And we're like, hey, can we name our dog Frito? And he was like, no, I'm going to come home and want to kick it because of my job. And I'm like, wow. If our kids are like, hey, can we name our new cat YouTube? I'm like, heck yes, that's great. Let's do it, And so that switch was a lot different with me. And again, it was the same with teaching. It was the same with coaching until it wasn't. And then I had to make the change.
Yeah, it's huge, man. And that is very challenging. I'm faced with that almost on a daily basis. I was put in a position where, I've shared with you my past. And when I came to finally, it was like, wow, like I got some work to do.
Yeah.
I got to play catch up fast.
For sure.
So it was jump into something and see what happens. And I'm very similar as, it's like I can, whatever it is, I don't care. Like I know no matter what, give me a month, maybe 2 months, and I'll conquer this. Guaranteed, So I already knew like, okay, like let's see what happens. I saw what could be done, the possibilities. I'm like, all right, let's see what happens. And it's just, But, within that whole time frame, it's like, what did it do to me? Like my mental health. What did it do to my spiritual health? What has it done to me physically? And it's, so that's something where it has weighed on me heavily, but then it's also, I battle with, a lot of that's a mindset too.
For sure.
Like, so is it me or is it that, so it's kind of tough to say, and it's really hard to figure out, but I just continuously try to provide myself with more opportunities and fill my downtime with things that do make me happy and that are going to, I guess, help me grow in all aspects of life. Yeah. And it's done amazing things.
That's awesome.
It hasn't, fixed everything and cured everything, but I can see subtle changes and feel like I'm in the right direction.
That's awesome.
At least, so, but yeah, it's funny you say that because there's days where I'm just like, but I also have a job where it doesn't quit when I leave.
Yeah. And that's the thing with me too, is I don't ever take days off. I have a weird trait that I don't know if I've ever met anyone like this. My downtime, my enjoyment is working. Yeah. I don't watch TV. I don't play video games. I don't go and do any sports. I just work. I just love working. It's either spending time with my family or working. Yeah. And if I don't, it starts driving me crazy. And so that's one of the key factors to the relative success of the channel too, is over 5 years now, 3 videos a week, at least 2 live streams a week. Usually it's more like 5, but at least 2 live streams a week I've never missed in 5 years.
This guy does live streams out of hotel lobbies. So.
Hotel lobbies, campgrounds. Yeah, everywhere. And so for me, that enjoyment, literally, it starts eating at me if I have a list of things to do, and I just like doing them. I've never once been like, I gotta go film, or shoot, I gotta go do a live stream. I just really enjoy it, and really it makes me happy. And obviously I know that it's cool because what makes me happy also gets to progress my career, gets to progress everything that I'm doing. So it kind of goes hand in hand, and that's just how I've always been. Like, it's not something that I'm like choosing, and I know that I'm fortunate that I have this weird gear, but I love it. I love every second of it, and I refuse to look at anything else negative. Like, I just get laser focused, and it's fun. It's fun to control your own destiny and make it happen yourself. I love every aspect of it.
That's awesome. And you kind of just touched on it a little bit, but I want to talk about you and your wife. Your guys's you have an insane amount of positivity, and you can smell the gratitude. You know what I mean, through the channel, and
for sure.
And that's awesome. It's so cool to see. Can you tell me a little bit about that background? Just how, like, were you guys this way when you met each other? Was it something you feed off each other?
Yeah. Okay. So I've always been very positive. Okay. I don't know where it comes from. It's not something I like have to super work at. I just relentlessly want to see the best in every situation. I also am stubborn. So like, once you get involved online, you're going to have people that are going to try and troll you, try to deter you. I mean, it's every day for me. I almost get like a little bit of like sick pleasure out of like knowing you're not going to impact me. And so I love it. Like, I'm going to stay positive no matter what. I'm not going to trash you. I'm not going to go down your level. My wife, and she would freely admit this here, she was not like that. Yeah. My wife would call herself a realist. And I am not a fan of that phrase. I believe that people that believe they're pessimist or believe that they're realist is just a way to make yourself feel better about seeing the worst in situations. And people would say, well, no, I'm just protecting myself. I'm just guarding myself from those situations. Yeah, I think that's an issue. Yeah. I think you go full force. You see the best. You make the best out of every situation. And it slowly wore off on her. She was not like a ragingly negative person or anything, but she was just, she called herself, like I said, a realist. Yeah. And so we just kind of grew together. I also had changed a lot with her. We are absurdly open with our communication. We always communicate every single little bit. I've learned how to approach her in situations better and talk with her in situations. And we just are always, I guess the trait that would be the most leaning towards the positive side is that I'm very introspective. I'm always analyzing myself. I'm always being open about it. I'm talking about it. I'm aware that I have ego and everyone does, but I try to set it aside. Yeah. Like tonight, literally before this, we had a long day, challenging day with our kids. Said my son's brain wasn't working right. And so I text my wife and like complimented her on how like proud I am of her of how she handled them with patience. And then I followed it by saying, I need to do better at slowing my processing time with my kids. I am too quick sometimes to jump to a decision or a reaction, and I need to slow that down. I need to breathe. But I'm proud of like that, the way that I analyze things. Yeah, and I think awesome. if you do that, you start to see the positive in every bit. And I am a firm believer that, man, any of this could change at any moment, right? Anything could go. Life truly is short. Yeah. So how do you want to spend it? And I've had those moments where I have been negative. I have got caught up in stuff, and I know how that feels. And I know how my decisions I made. And so I try to always keep that stuff in mind and just relentlessly make the most out of every situation. Yeah. And a lot of that's probably my mom. When I was a kid, I never understood how I would approach her with like the nastiest person or the worst situation. And she'd always, and it would frustrate the heck out of me. She'd always try to tell me something nice about them. Yeah. I'd be like, neighbor Phyllis, she's so rude, this old bag. And she's like, but she's the sweetest with her dogs. And like, that's cool. So she would point stuff out to me, even when I'm like, no, I just want misery. I want company. Like join me with this like complaining session. And she refused to. And so I think that is probably, if I had to like really break it down, that was kind of the catalyst of it. Probably, yeah. And so it's just really like if people could get a glimpse into our house, into my life, into my window, it's that. Like it really is 24/7. It's just approach to not accept anything other than making the most of it. And that's not to say we don't have tough days. It's not to say everything's rainbows and butterflies, because people, when they're not doing well, they want to bend reality to make themselves feel better. Yeah. And so they're like, oh, Dan can't possibly be this way. He can't possibly be this positive. I'm like, no, I have challenges. Mm-hmm. I'm just not going to give in to them. I'm just not going to complain about them. I'm not going to give it power. Exactly. And so I think that's a big understanding of like what being positive is, what actually being a pessimist or a realist is. And so it's amazing. My wife's in just such a good place. And she did not like her job. When she was an accountant, she did not like it. And so when you talk about gratitude, it's absurd how much gratitude we have. Like we sit back every day and we're like, is this real? Like we get to do this. Like we get to spend all this time with our family. We know that people struggle. We know that times are tough, and we know that our family is healthy. We just had a dishwasher and a microwave go. Really frustrating situation. It's only 6 years old, both of them, and we're like, adult money, and then we're like,
it's like warranty just went out yesterday.
Right. Yeah, it was a 5-year warranty. Yeah. And so then we had to sit back and we're like, we're healthy. Yeah. We're happy. We're good. Yeah. It's just money. Like, and that's a crazy thing for me to say as someone that's like adamant about working and getting stuff. We're like, we're okay. We're doing well. And so we really are. We just try to make the most out of every situation.
That's awesome. And it's I try to live like that the best I can. There are days where it's just, and I'm the kind of person where if I get negative thoughts in my head, it's hard to snap out of it if I let it go longer than I should.
For sure.
And it just kind of snowballs. And then it's like, let's go spend some money. You know what I mean? Or let's go do this to, put Band-Aids on it and make us feel better. And, and then it's like a month goes by and it's like, why do I feel so bad? And it's like, I've just been blowing everything off for a month, and wallowing in self-pity. Yeah. And it's like, all right, let's just start, doing stuff. And, I like to basically say like I'm cleaning up just by like cleaning the house. It will make me feel better inside. It's just stuff like that. And I've noticed throughout the years, gotten better about it. Like I was just talking to my wife the other day, you know, it's like I've been in one of those funks again, and I know it's like I'm just coming off vacation, and that's always so hard. And it's like right back into, you know, I walk in on a Monday morning and it's, hey, this happened, you know, and it's just like, oh my gosh, you know, like, why, you know, so, and, you know, but like you were saying, you got to find the positives no matter what. And I've found that out with every instance in my life, you know, every bad thing that has happened to me, I've learned something from it, or I was able to see, you know, maybe this is why it happened.
For sure.
Maybe I needed that to happen in order for this to happen, you know.
Oh, yeah. And I've had to learn a lot of that stuff too. I do fully understand. I don't have the same kind of challenges a lot of people do.
Oh, yeah.
I don't struggle with anxiety. I don't struggle with depression. I never have, never will. I never have. I can't say I never will. Who knows what's ahead. But my wife, I've learned a lot from. She had very severe postpartum depression, like very, very, like very dark. And so we had to go down the route of like, hey, how do we, it is here, it's real. How do we combat this? So I had to learn how to talk with her. I had to learn how to realize that this is real, right? I was not fully on the side of like, oh, just work out and it'll all go away. But I am a firm believer in that your brain is way more powerful than people believe. Yeah. Like one thing about me, knock on wood, I don't really get sick. And I don't think it's because I'm like absurdly healthy or anything like that. And maybe it's the teacher, the teacher, what we call immune system, you know. Yeah. But if I feel something, immediately I feel it. I start telling myself I'm not getting sick. I start vitamin C. I start water, and I'm adamant that I'm not going to get sick. And I know people that get sick, and they're right away they're like, okay, oh man, feel bad for me and stuff. But with my wife, we were like, okay, this is on the table. How do we solve this? And so we've gone a couple of different routes. We started working out seriously and regularly. That was big. And she's very open about this as well, which I love. She in the same way that I try to lead as a father and as a positive person publicly as a role model, she tries to do the same, but as being real on the side for women. Yeah. And so she'll do things where, let's say she gets lip filler or something, and she's like, oh yeah, I'm not hiding this. This is what makes me happy. So I'm doing. Same with medication. So she has talked about her postpartum medication. She's talked about anxiety medication, these different things. And so I learned like, okay, there are challenges, there are chemical imbalances that I just don't have. Yeah. And so I had to learn from people. And for example, for anybody out there that doesn't go through that, with my wife, she would get in a funk and she would get down for a while. And I used to say things like, babe, what's wrong? Yeah. Like, what's going on? And I had to realize,
just stop.
Yeah, relax. It's probably the worst thing I could say, you know. Yeah. But to me, that works. Like for me, if I get amped up, because I do get anxious, I get situations. All right, Dan, breathe, relax. So you got this, and I'm good. Telling my wife relax, breathe doesn't work. Yeah. And so I had to shift the way I approached her, and had to shift with things. Instead of being, if I notice she's off, I don't say, what's wrong? You're off. Why are you in a bad mood? Stuff like that. I'll simply say, hey, is there anything I can do to help you right now? Yeah. And just that acknowledgement usually helps. Or if she has something that she can give me to help, I do try to help. And it's kind of like a nice way of sending the message. I realize something's off right now. I'm not complaining. I'm not blaming you, but like, what can I do to help you kind of deal? And so that's come a long way and really helped with our road to being positive and being, a couple that's highly communicating and stuff. So I have learned that other
she
side.
Probably had a lot of walls too.
Yeah.
You know, it was like defense
for
mechanisms.
Sure. And she's big into, and you're asking these great questions about like, why do you do this? Where does this come from? I'm more of like the moment kind of person. Yeah. I like to analyze myself right now. What am I doing? She's big into now learning about, this childhood trauma leads to this and connects the dots, and it helps her. Mm-hmm. She's very analytical, and I do see that correlation. Yeah. And so that's been big too. And not trying to hide from it, not trying to numb it, not trying to run from it, but like aggressively embrace it and then speak about it and maybe help other people that had the same kind of experience.
All right. So how did you meet Sam?
Yeah, kind of funny, ironic story. One, because we met at a nightclub bar, and neither of us drink now. But we met first in college. We both went to U of M Flint for our last year.
Okay.
And I worked at a rec center, and she'd come visit, and I had a coworker that was like in love with her. And I was in a relationship at the time. And so I never really thought much other than like, wow, I can notice this is a gorgeous woman. Right. And that was about it. And then fast forward months and months later, my relationship was kind of on the way out. Kind of realized it wasn't the right fit. I always like to tell a story that she's now a doctor and was in med school, and so my parents were not the happiest when I broke that relationship off. And actually, shout out to my sister. She just got engaged this past weekend, and her fiance is a doctor.
Nice.
So
congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Maggie. And so I was kind of getting out of this relationship, and then I had a buddy who was having a birthday. And had a birthday in Pontiac, Michigan at a teenage nightclub called Tiki Bob's.
Tiki Bob's.
Yeah, it's about as bad as you guys could imagine of a teenage nightclub. And so it was teenage. What I mean by that is it was 18 and up. Yeah. So they served alcohol and stuff for 21-year-olds, but it was 18 and up. And I think we were, we were 22. I was 22 years old. I think she was 21 at the time. And so I saw her there. And I had I was dancing, feeling it, had the little liquid courage, and just spur of the moment, went up to her at the bar, put my arm around her, and I was pretty sure she knew who I was, so I wasn't a random creep. Right. And I had like a smooth line. I was like, hey, is Nick going to be upset when I take you on a date next week? And she like blushed and got her number. Yeah, that was the coworker. And so she blushed, got her number, and fast forward, I find out years later that the next morning when I text her to go on the date, she had no concept of who I was. She didn't remember what I looked like. She didn't remember anything. She knew later on that I was a guy from the rec center, but she didn't know my name. She didn't know any of that. And her friend convinced her to go on the date, to take a chance. And so amazing that it worked out. I was big into like experiential dates. And so I planned a date to go kayaking in Ann Arbor. So we drove an hour, got to talk the whole time. I had planned like a picnic halfway through the kayaking trip, and pretty much immediately knew, all right, there's something special here. And within like 2 or 3 months, I had an apartment. She moved in. We bought a house before we got married, and it's just been straightforward ever since.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you guys fit together so well, dude. Yeah. It's like you can just see it. There's couples where it's like, you just know.
We do. And we have, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, we have like intensely grown together. Yeah. Like we were very different, and now I think if you grow as a couple, you kind of become very similar. Yeah. And somebody even commented the other day that our laugh is the same.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it happens.
Never thought about that. That's crazy. And so we are like adamant about our communication, adamant about trying. A rule that we have is every day we wake up and we try to make the other person's day better. Yeah. And as long as we keep that frame of reference, and we're both really good at it, like it seems like it's like a crazy we both really do it. Yeah. And so we try to make sure the other person's day is better, and that always kind of leaves us on a good foot.
That's awesome.
And we just hyper communicate. We don't play silly games of we're not talking, we're gonna ride in the car and stuff. Like we communicate. If there's something wrong, we try to tell, and we try to figure out the other person and the best way to communicate with them. Yeah. And so there's been a lot of growth on both sides, and just kind of working together for a common goal.
It's the key to every relationship, and communication is so hard too sometimes. Not necessarily just talking, just trying to figure out how to get this feeling out.
Yes.
Without hurting someone's feelings or whatever it may be, So.
Exactly. Setting the ego aside to listen and not be defensive, and try to do what's right for the better good of the relationship and ultimately the family.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I wanted to talk to you about, just real quick, a couple more little things, but I know we touched on it a little bit, but I just really want to know, you've had some crazy things happen in your life that are like, not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you survived that, but just like, you just shared with me right before we started recording that you also played water polo. Yeah. So and you said you kind of just got thrown into it, then you became, 3-4 years later, you're the Big Ten MVP and all that. So it's like I feel like you see adversity as more like a challenge.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's like, all right, come on, let's go.
Is
that how you approach it?
To a T.
Yeah.
Vocally, like internally, like, yeah, like if there's something thrown at me, I'm like, I literally say, let's go.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. Let's see what you got.
Right.
Like literally I approach it as a challenge. Yep.
What have you learned in life, like during those moments, throughout your experiences as you've gotten older? I'm sure it's changed a lot, but what have you learned about yourself in those moments? And just, has anything changed as you've gotten older, as you've had more life experiences now that you're a father and a husband, or has it just been the same Dan from day one?
Man, I'm digging deep here. I don't know. I've really always tried to approach each challenge, like I said, as an opportunity, as a challenge, and go forward. I'm sure it's changed. I think I've become more calm as I've gotten older, and I approach it more rationally and going about it. But I've always had that drive. I've always been stubborn. So I said we met at a nightclub. I never drank until I was 21.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was because of sports. And it like became a thing where my high school friends and my college friends were like, we're going to get Dan to drink. Right. And I'm like, all right, bring it. And like made it a challenge for myself. Where like, I'm not going to like give into this societal pressure. Right. And so I've always had that weird knack where I'm like, nope, I'm not doing this. I've always thought like, hey, I got two choices. I can sit there and have the bad side of it, or I can fight to make the most. And I guess what I've learned is that, and I think I've mentioned, but the mind is super powerful. Like it really is super, super powerful. And I'm very fortunate that I have the ability to kind of tap into it when I want and really push forward and have a great support system in my wife that I can bounce all these things off. My mind doesn't stop. Yeah. Here's a crazy thing. I've learned that there are people that do not have internal monologues. Mm-hmm. They don't talk to themselves. They don't hear themselves talk. Mine doesn't stop, like at all. Mine just goes and goes and goes.
So like, do you like actually like have conversations? So yeah, I like did that in like, I've done that my whole life. And back in like high school, I think it was, I just kind of stopped and I'm just like, cause I like noticed it, and I didn't realize it at first. So I'm like, man, like I'm definitely not telling anyone about this right now, but am I okay? Am I okay? But then, later on down the road, it's like, this is how I operate. Yes. And it's constantly, if I don't have people around, and even if there are people around, I'm conversing with myself and my mind figuring something out,
Same.
So
and
that's funny.
I know how to use it now, which is really interesting. So for example, there's a lot of times I don't want to think. I just want to stop. And so like when I get ready, I'll put on a podcast if I don't want to hear myself and I can focus on the podcast. But let's say I'm at a creative rut, or I need some video ideas, or I just feel like sometimes I'll get into a comfort zone of like, I know this video is easy, I can do this. I know this topic is easy, I can do this. And I'm like, and I got to challenge myself. I'll take a shower and like purposely have no podcast or anything, and I just talk. My head just goes and races, or I'll go to bed and be fully awake, but I'm turning off the TV, I'm laying down, and I'm just going to immerse myself in these thoughts. Okay. And a lot of times it's around those challenge times. And I mentioned earlier, I do try to be very introspective and try to figure it out more so the moment type things rather than trying to go back and put the pieces together. But like, this is happening. What do I need to do? How do I change? How do I adjust? And that's one thing that I've really learned to embrace is like, I can kind of like turn the dial when I need to.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now that you're gaining all this exposure, this notoriety, have you faced any challenges with like your fan base or anything? I know you spoke a little bit about like being trolled here and there on the internet, but when you have a fan base, you have to be accepting and, no matter what. Has that been challenging, or has there been any setbacks, or has there been any instances where you've, I guess basically what I'm asking is how have you handled that, if there has been any of it?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any kind of setback or negative to it.
Good.
If I ever have anything like that, I remember what everybody else has to deal with, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't even speak. Like, I'm doing good. But there are things that I have to be aware of. I do believe that what you put out there is what you're going to attract back. And so I am just a relentlessly positive person. And if somebody isn't super positive, they're either going to start looking that way or they're just going to leave. And I'm going to annoy the heck out of them. Right. And I'm okay with that. And then that usually does turn into hate. It turns into disbelief, right? And jealousy, whatever you want to call it. And so the people do lash out. And I don't mind it. Like I said, I get a kind of enjoy not letting people affect me. Yeah. And another thing that I've was huge for me is I ended up, again, not being happy with teaching, but the like building blocks that teaching taught me is unbelievable what coaching taught me. Because what I do is I create content, but I really build a community. Yeah. I have a Facebook group, I have live streams, I have social media where it's like people come together. I learned that aspect from coaching, from teaching, and so it kind of lends itself. And then another thing that really, really helped me with teaching is that I do believe there's a lot of adults that have mental challenges, mental disabilities, and you see it in school, right? We see children that have special needs. Yeah. You don't just grow out of that. And I think oftentimes society forgets that, and they just chalk it up to like a weirdo or whatever the label will be called. And then there's a lot of judgment. But if it was in school, they would be like, oh, okay, they have challenges, right? And so I think I have a unique lens of being a teacher where I can identify pretty quickly with an adult, okay, I believe they're on the spectrum. I believe they have autism. I believe there's this. And that helps me kind of understand that situation. Okay. And oftentimes I think people are drawn to communities for different reasons. Yeah. And a lot of the times I think they need that community. They need that camaraderie. They need that support, and that's where they're finding it. And if you're finding it online where you don't have to go to a bar and drink and drive or spend a bar tab or any of that, hey, I would be happy to be that place for you. Yeah. And then to have that kind of...
I think you are for a lot.
It really is. Yeah. And I think having that cushion of being a former teacher and understanding the kind of wide range of humans and personalities out there, that's helped me a lot to be able to handle that. And I'll even converse with other content creators. I'm like, oh, this guy. And I'm like, in the like most like real way possible, guys, like, there might be something more to this situation. Yeah. Like, oh, I never thought about that. You're right. And so that's happened. But I've never had any like bad incidents. It's unbelievably, overwhelmingly like positive and appreciative and just an amazing outpouring of support. It's so dang cool. So when we go on like family trips now, it's no longer ever just a family trip. We always turn it into kind of like a business trip. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is we always do a meetup. Yeah. So we've had like 4 meetups in Orlando at Disney Springs. We did a meetup in San Antonio. We just did a meetup in Portland, Maine. We're doing a meetup in a couple of weeks at Hershey, Pennsylvania and stuff. So we get to not only like get to know these people on live streams and videos and stuff. Right. We go around literally the country and we meet them. In town, I rented out Aubrey's one night. Okay. And we had company sponsor it, and I had like 45 people there. It was all you could eat pizza, and everybody came and hung out, had a great time and giveaways. So we get to meet these people. We get to like put a face, a personality, into it. And so no, there has been, as we've grown, there's been absolutely nothing. Now, I am super niche, I only have 70 something thousand subscribers. This isn't like the huge entertainment celebrities, that's a different beast. That's a different animal. So I think being niche, being positive has lent itself to a really awesome crowd.
Well, and I mean, as well as I know, positivity will beat negativity any day. So if you don't turn away from yours, that person will eventually either turn or leave. Yeah, it's
so every single time. It just never lasts.
They just want something out of you, or so that's what I figured. Your teaching has helped a lot,
big time,
in dealing with just the community in general,
for sure. And even just the ability to handle a situation and remove emotions, right? If I have a parent that was just coming at me nasty and wrong and just absurd, I couldn't fire back at them. I couldn't do that. So I had to learn how to be diplomatic. And in this situation, it helps so much to be able to do that, whether it's companies and man, you said great. I've had we'll have to do this again on like a story time. I've had crazy ones. I got sued by a company one time. I actually went to court over it, and to be able to remain calm and remain professional and stuff was very, very beneficial. And so much of it was from teaching.
Do you get a lot of, like, is there a lot of competition between other content creators in your niche and stuff, or no?
No,
Okay.
It's unbelievably cohesive, and we work together.
Good.
So
Cool.
yeah, there's my channel's in the beard niche right now is one of the most influential, if not the most. And then companies will come to me for a review, for work, and then I have a ton of guys that I recommend, and we all work together. They speak highly of the channel. I speak highly of them.
Yeah.
We go on each other's different podcasts, our live streams. Cool. We're always plugging each other. There really is not. I mean, there's obviously negative corners of it, but it's not even with like content creators. Usually, the content creators, we all respect each other, and it's really cool. We have an entire like group chat of all the content creators.
That's cool. I'm going to hit you with one last question. And I've asked everyone. I just thoroughly enjoy it because it's something that I often think about myself.
Okay.
If you pick the age, but if younger Dan walked through that door right now, what piece of advice would you offer him?
Okay. So the younger me looking at this, I would probably tell myself to enjoy the moment. I am someone that is really driven, and it's always forward. It's never enough. Okay. I'm going. And I've had to, for example, I'm an analytics hound. I watch my analytics every day in every method imaginable. And if I have like a below average day, I'll get down on myself. And I'll be like, man, I only had 25 subscribers today instead of my normal 50 or 60. Yeah. And if I could have the younger me walk in and be like, shake and be like, even if you don't gain any, you're sitting at an amazing milestone. You're doing really well. Right. Like, enjoy what you have earned rather than always thinking about the next step forward. And it's a bittersweet thing because that drive does get me to new places. Yeah. But I do need to step back and enjoy the moment and enjoy what I have earned. And that's not easy for me.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate you saying that. And if I can offer a bit of advice, gratitude makes it so much easier. Just practice it on a daily basis. Get in a habit of just doing it, just writing down one thing you're grateful for every morning. And it kind of does make you just appreciate
big time
this, you know. But I also, it's got to be very challenging to be in a position where you have to constantly think about what to do next.
Yep.
So it's challenging, but no, that's cool. I appreciate that. Like I said, I thank you so much for not only joining me, but just everything that you have helped me with along the way. And it's been more than just content creator questions. It's been life questions.
For sure.
And you're a great person. You're a good guy. You're amazing for our community and just everyone in general. So keep doing what you do. And if you guys have not seen his YouTube channel or heard him or follow him on social media, please do so immediately. I myself have joined a few, I'd say probably maybe, 8 to 10 live streams myself. Cool. And they're awesome. It's just a bunch of guys, literally guys and girls, just talking to each other. And, it's not just beard from start to finish.
Correct.
It's everything, everything in between. You have games on there, you play little trivia things, and it's just really cool. And like I said from the get-go, and Dan has touched base on, it's super positive and is super helpful for the community and himself. So please, can you drop your channel, your Instagram handle, whatever?
Yeah, DanCBearded, all platforms, YouTube, Instagram. I have a Facebook group, Commands Corner, if you want to check that one out. But mainly Instagram and YouTube, DanCBearded.
All right, yeah, please go check him out. Thanks again, dude.
Yeah,
I appreciate it so much. I hope we can do this again.
Yes.
I'll try to grow this out so I can get on yours. And as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And if you have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel or my podcast, please do so now. It is on Spotify. It is on Apple Podcasts. It is on YouTube. And you can also follow me on Instagram at process_34 and Facebook at process34. Thank you so much. And as always, stay blessed, stay happy, stay healthy.